Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Here is your harbor of the soul. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story mail. It all started as a message in my mailbox. One morning, having my morning coffee and cigarette, I decided to walk out to the mailbox and check my mail. I bought this house from an auction for a very low price. It was out in the quiet country, me being a city kid. I had no idea what country life was like until I had made a few friends around the area. With the purchase of the house came 100 acres of cropland that, in the autumn, blossomed into golden produce that swayed beautifully in the wind. I slipped on my shoes and headed out to the road, still slightly groggy. Upon opening the mailbox, I found a dead bird inside. At first, I thought it was those stupids playing pranks again last week. They decided to toilet paper my lawn. I pulled the dead bird out and threw it on the ground. It was mangled to a pulp, almost as if a dog had gotten hold of it. Inside was nothing. I started to think that maybe the kids had stolen my mail, but eventually I brushed it off and told myself I'd get up early in the morning and watch the mail come so I could catch the jerks in the act. The next morning came, and the mailman came as usual. I walked out and got my mail, not thinking anything of it. The next morning was the same. The next week came and I walked out to get my mail once again. This time, I was horrified at the sight. My white mailbox had blood smeared all over it. I opened the mailbox cautiously. Inside was a mangled cat. I gasped and covered my mouth, quickly choking back the vomit rising in my throat. I rushed to my garage, put on my gloves, and pulled the poor animal out. Stapled to it was a note, fairly legible, but crude nonetheless. On the note was a simple smiley face. I was disgusted at that. Whoever did it thought it was funny. I gave the cat a proper burial and continued with my day. The next morning, I woke up around 5:00 a.m., walked out, and checked my mailbox again to see if it had been tampered with. The cat I had just buried in my backyard was stuffed inside yet again. This time another note attached to it. This one had a frowning face, and under it, "You don't like my present." Pissed off and finally fed up, I decided to bury it yet again and stay up all night to watch my mailbox to find out who was doing this. The time rolled by 1200 a.m., 100 a.m., to 100 a. Nothing at all then. At 300 a. I finally saw movement across the road, and out of the cornfield there came a figure into my yard. I watched it until it finally came under the security light I have in the middle of my yard. What I saw, I cannot begin to explain. It was a manor, at least I think. It was hunched over like an old man with long gangly arms that went farther than the average human, and its head bent downwards, as if it was looking for something it had dropped on the ground. The man looked frail and weak, but it moved with great speed. I quickly and quietly moved to the back window as I saw it dig up the cat once again and hold it in its arms. It stroked the cat as if it were alive and quickly hurried around to the front of my house, back at my front window, and watching it as it made its way to my mailbox and put the cat inside. It disappeared into the night that day. I didn't leave my house. I was too shocked by what happened. I slept a bit, then decided to take a trip to the store. When I came back, I checked the mailbox again, and there it was, the same cat I just buried. I went to take the dead cat out of my mailbox once again and bury it in a different spot, then proceeded to stay up again that night and wait to see what happened. A flashlight in hand and watching my front window again, I saw the long, spindly man come out of the field and jog into my yard. walked to the spot where I just buried the cat that day and started to dig it up with his hands. I slid open the back sliding glass door and stepped outside, turned on the flashlight at the man, and yelled, "What in the hell are you doing?" The man turned around to face me, and that's when I saw the thing for the first time, in plain sight. Its body looked like it had been mauled by a bear, clothes ripped, rotting skin shone through, its teeth completely exposed and jagged, and the eyes sunken in. I quickly ran back inside as it gave a shrieking sound and hopped over in my direction. I slid the glass door shut and locked it, and grabbed the pistol I bought for self-defense from under my couch, sending a bullet into the chamber. I shined the light at the door and waited. I accidentally fired off a shot, in fear when a glob of something smacked against the glass and slid down it. I walked to the glass door and shined the light down to see what it was. A mess of entrails were scattered across the bottom and blood smeared across the glass. Sick to my stomach, I choked back the vomit that was rising from my stomach. I quickly rushed back to the couch that was against the wall and sat there with my eyes fixed upon the glass door, my flashlight off outside. I could see the moonlight through the gruesome mess that was plastered upon the glass. I saw a figure approach the door, then its hand smeared the blood across the window. I was frozen with fear, waiting for it to break the glass and try to take my life from me. After smearing the blood, it turned around and walked away. I swear I could hear a faint chuckle, like a smoker's lungs laugh, but more raspy. I sat on the sofa and didn't budge. I don't know how long I waited, but after a while the room became light as the sun rose in the sky. I looked around the house. Everything was so quiet, and fixed my eyes on the window, and smeared across it were and prints with very unusually long fingers and a smiley, the same one on the letter. I sighed and tried to make myself comfortable, but still alert. I laid down and rested my eyes. A few hours later, I awoke from a nightmare and propped myself up on the couch. I was, apparently, pissing whatever it was off. And I was getting more scared by the second, just thinking of whatever was out there, lurking. I cleaned up the entrails off the ground and went out to check my mail. Then I came across a plain letter, curious. I opened it up and felt a chill shoot up my spine. The letter had no words, only a smile, the same crude smile that was on the letter stapled to the cat and on my sliding glass door. I quickly crumbled it up and tossed it on the ground. I left at night. I went to stay with my parents up in the city for a few weeks, not explaining my situation to them. I just simply told them that I had been sick of country life and needed a change for a few weeks. They happily agreed when I returned to my home 3 weeks later. Horror was stricken across my face, for my house was not as I left it. As soon as I walked in, the stench of rotting carcass hit my nostrils, and I vomited on the floor, covering my nose with my shirt. I proceeded to the light switch. Turning on the light made me shriek in terror. Scattered throughout my house were entrails and carcasses of dead animals. Some were propped up like humans on my couch, and all were staring at me as I stood, horrified. In the doorway, all over the white walls were smiley faces and the same writing over and over. "I'm very angry with you," written in blood. I lifted up the couch seat to look for my pistol, but it was gone. I saw something in the hallway moving steadily back and forth, flipping on the hall light. There it was again, the creature who had almost killed me the night before I had left. It snapped its gaze to me and moved its mouth into a sickening smile. It jumped up and started to walk in my direction. I quickly turned around and ran outside. slamming the door behind me. I got into my car, started it up, and proceeded to back out of the driveway onto the road as fast as I could. Behind me, I saw a figure in my rearview mirror, running up to my car. Its arms slammed into the trunk and it proceeded to hop onto the roof of my car. I shifted into drive and slammed on the gas. I drove all night as far as I could away from the house. Those dead animals. The thing, as soon as I was in the city limits, I decided to buy some gas, seeing as I was almost on empty. I pulled into a gas station and got out of my car. My eyes widened as I saw the trunk had been completely bashed in. I quickly pumped the gas and left for my parents' house. For months later, I am living in my apartment, dealing with occasional nightmares at times, but could never be happier to get away from that house and that monster that lives there. I just checked my mail this morning and received a letter with no return address. Inside, written on crumpled up paper, was a crudely drawn smiley face and the words, "You can't hide," scribbled underneath it. The second story, Point Lookout. So, it was past midnight, my brother and I were checking out the new DLC for Fallout 3 called Point Lookout. It had just been released at the time. He was the one playing, and I was on the bed, next to the computer, observing. If you are familiar with this DLC, you know there is a mission in which you are sent to retrieve a very special book for an old man living in one of the mansions on Point Lookout. The book was called The Crivbergen, and later on, you find out that it supposedly has some kind of dark power and needs to be destroyed. You can either give it back to the man or destroy it by taking the book to the Dunwich building in the Capital Wasteland. As my brother is interested in occult stuff, he found this quest really interesting. Before even doing anything more with the quest, he went on Fallout Wiki and looked up all the info he could find on the book and what would happen after. I thought it was stupid of him to get everything spoiled if he now found it such an interesting quest, but he said he somehow felt some kind of greater importance to it. After shooting through the ritual site, telling all of the swamp folk there, he decided to destroy the book, which forced him to go back to the Capital Wasteland, the original game world. At this point, he didn't have enough caps to buy another Rivbro ticket, so he killed an AD trader in Point Lookout at the docks and took all of her caps. I found this very strange, as my brother isn't playing as a bad character and would always do the moral and right thing, wanting good karma, but not this time. After coming back to the riverboat docks in the Capital Wasteland, he began making his way towards the Dunwich building Girder Shade. The place where you get the NUK Gola challenge was the closest location discovered, so he went there, only to realize that the place was deserted. The two people that used to live in the little town had vanished. We thought it must have been a game bug. As my brother never killed them, we ignored it, and he moved on. Finally, he arrived. He went through the levels pretty quick, witnessed the hallucinations, and the self-opening doors. We weren't really scared by any of that, because we knew it was going to be there. He got to the underchambers and placed the book on the creepy-looking altar, and it somehow completed the mission by destroying the book. At this point, my brother figured it would be a good time to head to Rivet City to sell some stuff he had gotten from Dunwich. Guess what? Not a single person could be found there at this point. We got really freaked out. We checked the other settlements, Megaton, the Citadel, Tenpenny Tower, and all of them were empty. We restarted the game and reloaded, but nothing helped. We figured we could go back to Point Lookout and see if there was anyone left there. The only problem was that Tober, the guy who owns the boat, wasn't around anymore either, so we couldn't buy a ticket. When my brother was about to leave the boat again, he was attacked by the very same people missing from all of the settlements. It must have been over 100 people, just charging the boat, throwing grenades, shooting missiles, wanting my brother dead. He didn't really have anything that could kill all the people at once, so we thought it would be a good idea if he went into the little cabin on the boat and wait for them to come. That didn't work out as we planned. They didn't run in. Instead, someone with a fat man launched a mini nuke into the cabin, completely blowing my brother into pieces right after that. The game froze and we had to restart it. Now, everything was fine, no one attacked us, and everyone was exactly where they were supposed to be. The third story, cave-in. It's been 49 hours since my light went dead and left me in the dark. The 14 dots from my wristwatch can show nothing in this total vacuum of light. I can do nothing but count down the time to my ending. I busted the crystal so I could feel the hand, gingerly running my finger lightly over the face. There is nothing but waiting every now and then I see a small dot of light, a random wayward float unactivating in my retina, or a stray particle passing through the earth, but nothing more, just a sec, and a false hope followed by nothing but black. The darkness must be getting to me, as I feel my mind slipping away from me. The only thing that keeps me partially sane is the torrent of sound made by water running beside me. It reminds me of a fan running in the quiet bright of outside. Night, the darkest room, is as the surface of the sun compared to this place. To think that I came here for fun. The lack of luminance is wreaking havoc in my mind. It whirls and spins in a vertigo of 3 days drunk. The walls are spinning like the eye of a tornado. If only I could see them. I vomit the water and lie down against the cool rock, praying to every invisible deity for mercy. I retch and vomit again, groaning against the earth. I think about killing myself and laugh when I realize I can't seem to make it painless. The spinning slows to an out-of-control teacup ridened. I drink some more water. The irony of being trapped here next to liquid life has not escaped me. 3 weeks. That is the figure I read once, that the average human can survive without food if they had a steady supply of water, combined with the 6 power bars in my pack. I could cling to life for a month, maybe a month and a half. There would be 6 weeks of darkness, vertigo, vomiting, and water. The humorous part is that it might be the best tasting water I have ever had. We found your son's body inside a small cave about 500 feet from the path, ma'am. The park ranger explained into the phone connected to the weeping woman. As near as we can tell, he was exploring a small cave when the ceiling caved in. He had some power bars and was next to a stream. Are you sure you want to know that? Okay. The preliminary report is saying he lived about 3 weeks. His death listed as starvation in conjunction with exposure. No, ma'am, he wouldn't have been able to dig himself out. There wouldn't have been any need to. Well, ma'am, I mean your son was on the outside of the cave and he was only about 10 feet inside the cave. Ma'am, I know you are distraught, but we must have not been around to hear him cry for help. Well, the coroner believes a stone fell and struck your son in the head, causing a minor subdural hematoma in the rear part of his brain. No, ma'am, he wasn't unconscious. It means that your son was rendered almost instantly blind.